Do 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 do. There, it's starting to go. It wants to go. It's thinking about it. Loading. 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 Hodor. It's really wanting to go. It's really wanting to go. It's almost there. Damn, come on. Just waiting. Just keep waiting. Just keep waiting. There it goes.
Oh my gosh. Players do not get an untapped phase. Pay
Just keep waiting. Just
island
see
during
now
round
it's
keep.
trying to do.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's unreal. Some of these cards are fucking annoying.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Welcome to Mana Drained episode 5. I'm Mox Born again. I have with me Magic. Oh, no, this is not Magic Vice. We have a guest host this week, or this episode. That's not appropriate. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is with us.
What's up, everybody?
What's happening? So I thought we brought Phase. We thought we'd bring Phase on because Magic Vice wasn't able to make it. He had some commitments he had to attend to, and wasn't able to join us tonight. So I figured we'll bring the little bro in, the handsome, the bearded Phase.
Yeah.
So
Bearded.
so what have you been up to, man?
Nothing, just working a lot. Still attempting to go to school. Got one more semester left, and then I'm done.
Sweet.
So,
That's good. Then you're done.
Yep.
Then you're in the real world. Well, you're kind of in the real world right now because do you have any classes right this second?
Not this semester. Next semester I'll have 4 classes.
Okay, so right now you're just working
Uh,
full time, right? And doing soccer.
Yeah. Yep.
So, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's cool. So you kind of have the real
Hard.
world going on right now. What the fuck?
Yeah. Got work at 7:30 in the morning tomorrow. So.
Oh, that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
deal with hillbillies all day.
Anyway, let's not get you fired.
Anyway,
Let's
don't get me fired up.
or don't get you fired up, right? All right, so we've got quite a bit we want to talk about. Even though Magic Vice will not be joining us today, he did request that we speak about the blue white. Normally it would be blue white. What are we talking about? But it's green white, the green white Megamorph deck from Star City's game. So we're going to talk about a lot of those different decks. Mainly the green white one, because it finished first. But there was also 2 other versions of it in the top 8. So we'll be talking about that. Which that was this past weekend. Was it? Yeah, it was this past weekend. The weekend before that, we had our In Response Battle for Zendikar tournament, so we'll be talking about that a little bit. And then I thought we would talk about an article I saw on MTG Goldfish called Unfun, Unfair, and Punishing 8th Edition. So yeah, and it really pertains to Modern and how overpowered 8th Edition was and what kind of cards 8th Edition put into Modern, so... Anyway, we'll get there when we get there. So let's talk about... and we're also going to talk about what kind of standard decks we're building, too. I want to throw that in there as well. Let's go ahead and start with the Star City Games tournament. So it looks like Jacob Levy finished in first place with his green-white Megamorph deck, and this kind of can go across all the different decks. It doesn't look like too many people are playing Battle for Zendikar cards yet. It just seems like the lands are being played. So right now it's what are the best cards that we can play in our Khan's deck, but if we wanted to go outside one color, now we have the opportunity to. So now we're gonna play 4-color decks. So like you've got people like the Bring the Light crowd who are you familiar with the Bring the Light card phase?
I am not.
It's basically it's 1 blue, 1 green, and 3 colorless, and it has Converge. And what Converge means is the number of mana you spend is kind of changes what it does. So this card will let you search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery with the converted mana cost equal to the number, not equal to or less than the number of colors of mana that you spent on it. So you can spend up to all 5 mana and search up a 5-drop creature, instant, or sorcery and play it for free. So like everyone's got these grandiose ideas of like, oh, I can search up Siege Rhino and I can search up, all these, bombs. And what people really have been doing is using it for removal spells, because I believe it's a sorcery card, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull it up here if I have it. I believe it's a sorcery card. I don't have it lined up. Well, shit. Shitty. Oh, well. Yeah, I believe it's a sorcery. Let me search real quick here. Bring to Light. Almost positive it's a sorcery. It's too powerful to be an instant. Yeah, it's a sorcery. So people are pulling up these, pulling in these removal spells to kind of spot removal, like, okay, I need to get rid of a planeswalker, okay, so I need to get rid of a 4-drop, or or hey, they just dropped down 4 ally creatures, I need a board wipe, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a universal card, but one thing that I'm seeing from all these decks is we're not playing Zendikar cards. All we're playing is Zendikar lands. So how do you feel about that? Like, because your last deck you built was the red-blue Shrapmetal Blast deck, which didn't have. Yep. Did you use Insult Artifact? I can't remember, the one that turned a artifact into a 5/5.
What I used Artifact Red. I didn't have any blue in it. I was in the process of switching it from just red and colorless to red, colorless, and blue, but I never got to that point. I thought about using the one card where it switched the artifact into a indestructible creature, or a 5/5 creature, and using that colorless land to do that artifact land.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really got to that point because I saw that was a huge opportunity to use Shrapmetal Blast and a whole bunch of other cards to attack, and then blow up that card and then deal that 5 damage for 2.
Right. So how do you?
It was a sick combo.
So if you had access for that deck, since that deck is that like the majority of your deck, or at least of the Insult Artifact deck, has cycled out of standard. So if you had access to an additional land, would you taint your red artifact deck with 2 or 3 colors to try and get more opportunity, or would you just stick with what you had?
That's a tough call. I haven't really had too much experience with it, but I could see it being very situational.
Right.
Kind of go fetch a card that you need, because the worst thing is trying to draw that card, just waiting on that chance.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's good to go fetch that card you need.
Right. Well, and the other thing too that
right from there.
Right, and the other thing too that you would have with your deck, you could do, with your red deck, you could add like removal spells, like not instant removals, but like creature removal. So instead of using your burn spells or like your Shrapmetal Blast on a creature, you could use it on you can use that on the player, and find wait till you get your Black Languish or whatever that deal is, -4/-4 to all creatures or whatever. So it's interesting that we're not seeing a lot of Zendikar cards in the set, minus the land. The lands seem to be the most popular thing. Obviously, then Gideon did make a pretty big impression. He was in quite a few of the decks, and actually he was the only card. I'm going to pull up Gideon here. He was the only card that was in the green-white decks that were mainboarded. There was the other. I can read Gideon real quick here to you. So Gideon's he's a white planeswalker with the loyalty of 4. He costs 2 colorless, 2 white. His +1 ability until end of turn, he becomes a 5/5 human soldier ally creature with indestructible, which is important. Where past Gideons have not been indestructible, so they reduced all the damage to 0 or whatever in some points, but this being indestructible means you can't target destroy creature or target destroy planeswalker. You can't do that. Was the last one indestructible? I thought it turned all the damage to 0. Or prevented all damage.
The gate crash one, he was indestructible.
Oh, was he? Oh. Anyway.
It turned him into a creature, and it turned him into a creature.
Right.
I think that's when they started. That's the first planeswalker I ever had. So.
Gotcha. So for 0, he can spit out a 2/2 white knight ally creature, which is important because, well, I guess it will be important because right now we don't see any, at least in the top 8, there weren't any ally decks, but I have a feeling after rotation, you're going to, when people are actually going to have to use the Zendikar creatures, you're going to see an ally deck emerge, and when all these ally creatures have rally that trigger when an ally hits the ally. God, I can't speak. When an ally enters the battlefield, so this will trigger that ability for all those rally creatures, and then you can just -4 him, and all creatures, you get an emblem that says all creatures you control get +1/+1. So one of the cool things about this guy is you have access to all of his abilities right out of the gate. So like you can do his ultimate turn 1, drop him down for 2 or for 4 mana, and then -4 him immediately, and now all your creatures are bigger. So the other card that made it into quite a few of the sideboard cards, and we'll talk about sideboard when we talk about the unfair article, was Gideon's Reproach. I'm going to pull that card up for everybody. Gideon's Reproach is a 2-mana instant, so 1 white, 1 colorless. Gideon's Reproach deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. So it's kind of nice. You know, if you need to double up rather than doubling up like one of your creatures or whatever, you can, you know, set up a, you know, make it look like a quote unquote chump block, and chump block one of their big guys, and then, you know, deal an additional 4 damage. So if they've got like a Siege Rhino, for instance, and you block it with a 1/1, this will put through that extra 4 damage to bring down the Siege Rhino, which is nice. Or, you know, if you just need to wipe a creature that's attacking, that's 4 or less, you can just drop them down with that. But yeah, it was just, you know, I was watching the tournament, and this card, it's one of the, and it was funny to listen to the spectators, the
announcers.
The commentators. They're like, and they knew. I mean, they knew that the opponent, the defending player, had Gideon's Reproach. The, you know, the attacking player, the person that was whose turn it was, doesn't, obviously. But you can tell they're sitting there like, do I attack into it? I mean, they have 2 mana open. Like, if they don't have it, then I just wasted a turn. If they do have it, now I don't have my guy. You know, it really creates a problem for, you know, it makes attacking and blocking really difficult.
Create that hesitation.
This seems like one of the cards that you would play, especially in your Boros deck. In your red-white deck? Yeah.
Yep.
So this would probably replace, you know, what, like maybe a Shock? Like you would probably take out Shock for this?
Yeah, I think so. I'd probably take out a Shock, and then maybe even 2 Shocks.
Yeah. So that way, I mean, because Shock is good because you can put it to someone's face, but like being able to take down a 4 toughness creature for 2, that's shocking. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so Gideon's Reproach saw a lot of play out of sideboard, which rightfully so. It's a pretty badass card. Let's see, but to talk a little bit more about this deck, this green white deck. really doesn't play anything different than what it had before. I mean, it lost the main card that it really lost. Well, two main cards really. It lost Elvish Mystic, which kind of sucks. There's no mana ramp now, so that kind of went the wayside. But it also lost Fleecemane Lion, which was a huge 2-drop. But it replaced a couple, and Fleecemane Lion was really kind of a win condition for some of these decks, just because when you monstrous it becomes indestructible. But they replaced it with something that I didn't actually see coming, because it's somewhat like the mana difference is huge. So they replaced a 2-drop with a 5-drop, which is a pretty big difference. So Wingmate Rock replaced it, which is a 5-mana 3/4 with flying, so 2 white and 3 colorless. But it also has Raid. So if you have Raid is when you have attacked. So basically your second main phase after you've attacked at the turn. When Wingmate Rock enters the battlefield, if you've attacked this turn, you get to put a 3/4 white bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So basically, it doubles itself. So you get 2 3/4s with flying. Now the actual Wingmate Rock also has whenever it attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking creature. So it's a little bit of a buff here or there. But I find it kind of interesting that they switch these 2 cards out, and this card's from Con, so this card has been out since what, a year and a half ago. No, probably about a year. Probably about a year ago. But it's just interesting that the kind of swing they took, and the reason they can do that is because we've got these fetch lands, and we have the Battle for Zendikar lands where they tap for green or they tap for white, and people can play 2 white in a green deck spells. You don't have to worry about fixing their mana. Let's see what else, but you still have like Den Protector still in there, which is a pretty solid card. Let me switch that one up. So Den Protector is a morph creature, which on the face of it doesn't sound like it does much, but it's a 2/1 for 2 mana, and then you can lay it upside down, obviously, for its morph cost of 3 colorless, and then flip it up for its mega morph cost, which is 1 white or 1 colorless and 1 green, and it gets a +1/+1 counter, so it becomes a 3/2. First off, it can't be blocked by creatures with power less than Den Protector. So, and it can't be blocked by a 2/2 or a 1/1. However, when it flips up, you can return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So any card, not creature, instant, or sword. It can be anything. Land, which is huge for if you need extra land, like this is a 3-drop, you could flip it up, or is it when it enters the battlefield? No, it's when its turn's faced up. So you have to turn it face down first on turn 3 or whatever for 3 mana, and then flip it up for 2, and you can pull something out of your graveyard. So for instance, if you've used a fetch land and that fetch land is in your graveyard, you can now bring that fetch land back to your hand and then play it, tap it, sack it, search a land.
You just recycle all those search lands, which is insane.
It is nuts. So that's one thing that it's got going for it. The other thing is it matches well with the card Death Mist Raptor. Jeez, I can't talk today. Holy smokes. This is a 3/3 for 3, and it has Death Touch. It also has Megamorph. But its key feature that ties in with Den Protector is whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, so when you turn Den Protector face up, you not only get your land or whatever cards in your graveyard, but Death Mist Raptor, holy shit, you may return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, so if Death Mist is in your graveyard and you flip up Den Protector, you can get a land, and Death Mist Raptor is coming to play. So there's that. So yeah, so I mean, this deck has got a lot of powerful cards, like, you know, right out of the rip, like 3 mana. Their third turn is really powerful. So
Yeah, it's all about that build up to that third turn
right,
and what's available to the player.
yeah, definitely. The one thing that is interesting is, and it's got Death Touch too. So obviously you don't want to like chump it with something that you need from turn 1 or turn 2. Um, hmm. You know, Gideon's Reproach gets it. There's a couple creatures a couple instants and sorceries will get it. The one card that I think will become popular, actually after the Pro Tour, which I believe is this coming weekend? I think it's this coming weekend. Is Radiant Flames. Pulling that up right now. And this is another Converge spell, which it's interesting. And you actually might like this. It's a red spell. It's 1 red and 2 colorless. So complete mana cost of 3. Converted mana cost of 3. Radiant Flames deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast Radiant Flames. So you can effectively do, what was the one from Theros? Anger the Gods. So you can effectively, you know, if you spent 3 colors of mana, you could deal 3 damage to each creature. Granted, they don't get exiled, but then again, if you know, the one thing that people talk about with this card is where with Anger the Gods, it was 3 no matter what. So if you had a 3/3 on the battlefield, it was getting exiled. And like say you had a 3/3 and your opponent had a bunch of 1/1s, you could play this for 1 red and 2 colorless, or if you could tap 3 red and it would just be 1 red and deal every creature 1 damage. That way you would keep yours and be able to get rid of theirs. So it's scalable, which is nice. So it's kind of trade off. The one
Yeah.
I really would have liked to see Anger the Gods reprinted, which kind of makes it hard with God in the actual name to reprint it in a non-Theros deck or set. But with the way with all the exile stuff in Zendikar, I mean, that would be perfect. Like all the processors where you have to bring a card from opponent's exile into their graveyard and have your card do something extra. I think that would be really sweet. So I'm kind of hoping that, you know, the next set we get a red spell that really helps that out. Like it's not going to be Anger the Gods just because it's. I don't really think that they could pull that off. It's a little bit of a stretch. But I'm trying to think if there's any other. I'm going to look at the rest of this the rest of this deck list and see if there's anything else. There's really not. They really didn't change too much about it. Even in the sideboard, the only cards from Zendikar are Gideon's Reproach and Gideon. Gideon's a 4 of, which is interesting that there's the Planeswalker's a 4 of. Yeah, they got the Canopy Vistas, which the Canopy Vistas is the green-white land from Zendikar.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's switch gears and we'll talk about our tournament in response. Battle for Zendikar. So what kind of deck did you build, FaZe?
Mine was a white-green deck.
White-green, huh?
White-green, yeah. That was kind of the cards that I was dealt.
Yeah.
Or lack of their cards, but I mean, I guess I did fairly well. Came in third, so it wasn't a complete.
Was there any card
loss.
Was there any card that stood out that you like can contribute your winning to, or like what card that you were glad you had in your deck, or was it just kind of like a go wide kind of thing?
There was I can't remember what it was called. It was a green card, sorcery. Nessa is something or other. Basically, what you did was you paid, I think, 7 or 8 converted mana cost. You you search your library for 3 lands, put them into play, and then you gain 7 life.
Oh,
And
nice.
what was interesting about this is I had a couple of landfall creatures in play. So whenever a land comes into play, their abilities would pop off. And I think 2 of them had whenever a land comes into play, you gain a life. So I was gaining 13 life just from playing this one card because I was playing 3 land and gaining 7. So I mean, it was a huge life boost. I probably won 2 or 3 games off of that card because I got 2 of them.
Oh,
And
did
when we
you?
opened up our packs, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Mrs. Renewal. I got it pulled up here
Yeah,
on the screen for
that's what it
everybody.
is.
So yeah, so 6 mana, one green, 1 color, or 5 colorless. Search your library for up to 3 basic lands. Put them into the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. You gain 7 life. That's that. The one thing about that, and I think you used it perfectly, is you could be at like 2 or 3 life and you hit that 6th land. Play this, and if you've got the right landfall, like you said, if there's landfall creatures, there's a 1-drop green. I think it's a plant that has landfall. You gain 1 life when a land comes into play.
Yeah, I think is it a defender?
Yeah, it's got
maybe?
defender.
Something like that.
So I mean, right there, you've got your 3 land, or the land you played for turn, and then. So that's 1 plus the 3 that are coming in here. That's 4 plus 7 is 11. So you can go right. You're right back in. Double digits, and back.
Easily.
Easily with 1 card. Granted, you spend a whole turn doing that, but the thing is, your next turn you've got 3 additional lands to play with, and you can drop. Do you get any good Eldrazi with your deck?
I got a couple good L's, not like the rare ones, but I got a couple of the good ones. 7/7 with trample.
Those are
He's really
nice.
good.
Those are nice.
Yeah, those are really nice. And then there's another uncommon one that I got. I think he was an 8/8, and he did the if you take an exile card from your opponent, put him in your graveyard, you get something or other. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I never got that to kind of fire off. I kind of shied away from exiling my opponent's cards.
Oh, the ingest, yeah. That's the one thing. The problem with my pool of cards was, like, there's a couple different archetypes that you have in this set, and in sealed and in draft. You have the devoid deck, which can be either black, any combination of black, blue, red. There's a little bit of green in there, but a little bit of green. And then you have the ally decks and like the creature heavy decks, because not every ally deck has to have allies in it. Just a few of the key ones, because of the way they trigger. It's when they come into play, it gives all your creatures X ability or whatever, or whenever another ally. So you can, if you've got a deck of like 6 or 7 allies, you're set.
Yeah.
Or there's like there's a life gain deck and stuff like that, or in the processing deck and stuff like that. So like I got in my sealed pool, I got like 3 or 4 decent devoid cards. I got 3 or 4 ally cards, and 3 or 4. I got I didn't really get I got a little bit of everything. So like my deck was like I had to play control. Like I played a blue-white control deck, and like I had more awaken cards I think than actual ally cards, which is kind of scary. So like I basically bounce that, put that on top of your library, counter that. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else I could do with the card pool I had. It felt kind of like a jerk, but it's the cards you're dealt.
Yeah, you gotta play the cards you're dealt.
Right. I didn't really open it. I did open in one of I did pick up my pack from pre-release, my pity pack, because I didn't do very well at pre-release, but I did open a foil Gideon, so I'm super excited about that. I have a feeling it's going to go up. I have a feeling.
Sell it.
I should sell it. But you know what? I'll tell you what. I even asked. I went to Epic Loot and I asked them how much they would buy a foil Gideon for, and they were buying regular Gideons for $25. Guess how much this guy offered me for a foil Gideon?
I guess like 30.
Yep, $30. $30. That's it. Yep. So I wasn't really happy with that. So I mean, the card's worth when you, if you were to buy it online, at least it would be $55. So they're gonna sell it for 60. So I'll hang on to it because I mean, the top 2 decks, there was 8 copies. I wonder how many in that, at least in that SCG. Let's see here. Let me go back. Jeskai Black. Let's see. It did not have any. 2 Jeskai Black. Bant Megamorph. Bant Megamorph deck had 3 copies, so that's what, 7 right there in the top 5. The 6th place was another green-white deck, which had 4. So that's 11 copies in the top 6. Jeskai Dragons probably doesn't have any. Nope, they have 2. So there's 7, 8, 9. Right? No. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17. So there's 17 copies of Gideon in the top 8. So, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to go up. He's popular, that's for sure. I think. Well, here's my thing with most planeswalkers. If you have more than if you have 4 in one deck, if you have 1 in your hand and 1 in play. If you have 1 in your hand and 1 in play, you can't, you have to, it's kind of a dead card until you get rid of that first one that's in play. So like with Gideon, you put 1 down. If you have 1 in play, you just -4 it, and all your creatures get +1/+1 for the rest of the game. Play your second one. Like, it's got its own, removal. So
yeah, which is nice.
Right, exactly. So there's not many planeswalkers out there where you can say, well, I mean, I think Jace, Architect of Thought, when it was in Standard, it saw 4 of, only because you could play 1, -2 it, and I think you looked at the top 3 or top 5 cards, or top 3 cards, or something like that, and your opponent put it in 2 different piles, and then you picked 1. Put 1 in your hand, and the other one goes to the bottom of your library or whatever. That one did because you could, instantly -2 it, get your... get 2 cards or 1 card or whatever, and then play the next one and buff the next one. So that one, those two are very similar. So and that card got close to $50 as well, just the regular one. So I'm gonna hold out hope and see it. Hopefully it goes up. But yeah, but my in response draft did not go well. So, but that's all right. We had fun.
Yeah,
Magic Vice.
That's the first time I ever placed, so I'm happy.
There you go. There you go. Magic Vice finished in first, so shout out to him. Good job. Good job, Nick. Way to go. Boo, boo. Hey, you know what? I did my best. My series with him went to game 3, so I don't know. I think I played.
Would have went to game 3.
Yours would have too.
I think so. I think I had. We went to on game 2. We've spent so much time on the first game. We probably spent like 30 minutes on game 1, and then for game 2 we ended up going to turns.
Right.
And I think I had won the second one. It didn't matter at the time, but I think I won the second one.
Right.
And I mean, it wouldn't change the places at all if we would have played the third one. So, but I gave him a run for his money. So.
That's good.
Proud.
I'm glad you did. All right, so let's switch gears, and we're going to talk about a little bit of Modern. So on mtggoldfish.com, they usually do like financial stuff with Magic, like when you should sell things, when you should buy things, and if they had a really big. They do a lot of number crunching when it comes to Magic. So what types of cards what's the best deck to build if you're going to Pro Tour, or not Pro Tour, if you're going to a Grand Prix. Which deck are you most likely to win with? What everybody else is playing. This is a really awesome site. If you like numbers, like, it's got everything you could possibly want. There's some pretty sweet articles on here as well. The one that I was reading today, which I find kind of interesting, because a lot of these cards came out when I first started playing, and then got reprinted in 8th edition, which was one of the first sets that started Modern. And kind of a lot of the cards are broken, but when you're talking about Modern, you've got all these tools to combat those. So anyway, so the title of the article is Unfun, Unfair, and Punishing, 8th edition. So it talks about cards like Worship. So Worship was originally printed in Urza's Saga, reprinted in 8th edition, I believe, or 9th edition, I can't see from here. It's 1 white, 3 colorless. It's an enchantment. If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So effectively, as long as you have a creature, you can't lose the game. It also brings up cards like Blood Moon, which turns all non-basic lands into mountains, which kind of shuts down your opponent, because obviously they're not prepared. If they're not playing a red deck, having a bunch of mountains doesn't really help them at all. So it kind of shuts them out. So it takes all of these different cards and says, talks about the 2 different types of people. Like the people that, there's kind of 2 camps. There's the people that feel, it's unfair to play with these cards because I shouldn't have to spend cards out of my 60 cards to combat these cards. I shouldn't have to play Enchantment Hate to play my own cards. And then there's the other group that, hey, there's thousands upon thousands of cards in this format. You might need to get answers for some. Why not? You need to have some answers. So I figured we would kind of discuss these types of this topic a little bit, FaZe. And what are your thoughts on cards that in general that stop you from doing things, stop you from playing the game of Magic?
I mean, that Blood Moon. I mean, it's an enchantment, but I mean, like you said, there's thousands upon thousands of cards that you can counteract this thing with, and you got a sideboard of 15 cards. And I mean, there has to be 1 card out of those thousands that's a colorless that says destroy target enchantment or remove card from the game or something, exile target card.
Right. Well, and I mean, the other thing too is it's non-basic lands. So if you have a plains in play, you can still use your plains.
Yeah, it's not like they're killing your mana. It's red now. I mean. And you can always have Mox Diamond. That's another card that you can have.
Well, that's not in Modern, unfortunately. Oh no, yeah, no, I don't think that is in Modern. I don't think Mox Diamond is in Modern. I don't know.
Well,
but anyway, you're right. I mean, cards.
There's artifacts that do land. I mean, there's creatures that you can sack it and get blue or pick a color. That can counteract this and help you destroy it. I mean, it's just another hurdle that you need to get over in order to win the game. I mean, it's a part of the game. It's fair play. Right,
and that's kind of my thought. My thought process is it's part of the game. Like like you said, you have a sideboard for a reason. Game 2. If you built your sideboard correctly, you can counteract these types of cards. And, you should have some type of enchantment removal anyway in your main deck, at least 1, I feel, because there's so many cards, like, that interact with your card. I mean, like, there's cards that when come into play, exile target card until this card leaves play. Okay, well, you need to have an answer for that, and that's an enchantment, so obviously, that if you have some type of enchantment removal or whatever, you're set. On the other hand, maybe you shouldn't be playing, and I hate saying this, but maybe playing a bunch of dual lands doesn't benefit you. Like, you need to make sure that your mana base is set in a way that you can't get screwed by Blood Moon if you feel that that's going to be something that you're coming up against. But Or, you know, enchantments are another way to win the game and stuff like that. So, or not enchantments, artifacts. Yeah. So,
there's ways around it. There's loopholes in every deck. I mean, if you're playing with a Blood Moon, there's a way around it, and there's a way to overcome that deck's, you know, attack.
Right. Well, in like my modern deck, my Sunburn deck uses the card in my side. It's in my sideboard. I don't main board it. It's in my sideboard called Ensnaring Bridge. I have 2 copies of it in my sideboard. Ensnaring Bridge. Let me pull it up here. Ensnaring Bridge is 3. It's a 3 colorless enchantment. Artifact. That creatures with the power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. So if I have no cards in my hand, you can't attack me with any creature that has the power 0 or more. Pull this up here. There we go. So the reason why I have this in my sideboard is my deck is an aggro deck, very, very aggro. Like if I don't kill you by turn 3, or have my combo together by turn 3, then all bets are off. Like it's very difficult for me to win with this deck. It's, you know, you cast a spell, tap, deal 1 damage, draw a card, cast a spell, untap, tap, draw a card, 1 damage, stuff like that. So I don't have, and there's only 2 creatures in my deck. Actually, now there's only 1 creature in my deck because I took G-Electrode out, and now I only have Blister Coil in there. So yeah, so there's even less creatures in my deck. But, and the thing is, like, I constantly do not have cards in my hand because I'm always casting spells. So, like all my cards are like 90% of them or 95% of them are cantrips. So it's you cast a spell and draw a card, cast a spell and draw a card. So that keeps going until I either draw a land or draw another G-Electrode or not G-Electrode, Blister Coil. So, you know, in the games that I've played, I've come across decks where it's like, okay, now I don't have any cards in my hand, and I have my creature who is now tapped because I pinged him for 1 or drew a card or whatever the case may be. Now I don't have any way to defend myself, or it slows my combos down slows my card draw down because they have creatures I have to block. Like, so I'm just like, well, how can I stop them from attacking me? Ensnaring Bridge. There it is. So it's just part of the game. And the thing is, this doesn't stop you from playing spells. It just stops you from attacking. So, you know, what's that?
There's a loophole to it, but it covers a main. It stops the bleeding for a little bit. I mean, there's ways around it, but it stops the bleeding for a while.
And that's exactly it. That's why I play. In most of the time, when I put it in my sideboard and actually comes into my main board for game 2, it only stays in play for 2 or 3 turns before it either gets removed from the game or I have to destroy it because I need to attack. So I end up having to destroy it, which is kind of, you know, annoying in some cases. But if I have a way to win and my artifact is stopping me from winning, I can destroy it. So like if I'm prepared for it, you should be too. So I don't know. But it usually catches people off guard too because it comes in on game 2. So they couldn't cite anything in for game 1. Like obviously, cause game 1 they didn't see it, so they're not going to cite in any artifact hate. But I don't know. So, what other? There was another card that they were talking about. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe not. Worship. Ensnaring. So Ensnaring Bridge was another one that they talked about, but I don't know. I like your original thought. If you use your 15 cards in your sideboard correctly, you shouldn't have a problem dealing with these cards. You know, and you can use we all have most of us have the internet. Anybody that goes to your local game store and to play Friday Night Magic or whatever, you know what people will play on a regular basis. You know what you're running into, so you have to alter your deck. You know, yeah, people at Friday Night Magic at my local game store, they might not be playing the same decks that you're playing against in Rio. So, you have to your main board doesn't have to alter, but your sideboard has to based on what you think you're going to be playing against. So,
yeah, it's all interpretation.
Right.
I mean, whatever you think is going to happen, I mean, you need to go through gut feeling, and if this is a popular, combo or something like that, you need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, so who knows? All right. I guess we can finish up with what we're building right now. What kind of decks are you looking at building? Anything in particular?
Oh, what was I gonna do? I had an idea for one. I didn't write it down or anything like that, but um, I love using the Tapped Out site. That is my all-time favorite site. It lays everything out nice and neat.
Mm-hmm. Tappedout.net. It's a very good website.
Yep. Very, very good. You can also see other people's decks and kind of get an idea of what they're trying to do, and even get other ideas for your deck.
They have a really good community too. Like, there's a lot of people on there.
They have a lot of people that give a lot of honest feedback, and you can see how many times your deck's been viewed and stuff like that. But I would really like to get my my modern deck in order. I'd like to put my my Shrap Metal deck kind of into full effect with the Scuttling Doom engine and that kind of combo. I want to get that deck running nice and
There's
smooth.
a lot of good cards in modern for that deck. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, you should because that was your standard deck, right?
Yeah, that was
for rotation
deck. I mean, it wasn't standard for very long. To give you an idea, it wasn't standard long enough for me to finish it.
Right. So that's kind of that's what my deck is right now. I started this deck. I started this deck when Narset, the Enlightened Master, came out with the con set. So she's a 6-mana 3/2 legendary creature. So she's Jeskai color. So she's white, red, blue, and 3 colorless. She has first strike and hexproof, which is good. And then whenever she attacks, I get to exile the top 4 cards of my library. Until the end of my turn, I may cast any non-creature cards exiled this way, without paying their mana cost. So originally, what I had in this deck was a bunch of burn. I called it Halburn, only because I comboed this with the card Howl of the Horde, which is a card for 1 red and 3 colorless sorcery. It copies your next instant or sorcery spell you play. But it also has Raid, which is nice. Does the exact same thing with Raid, only it copies it 2 additional times. So basically, you play this spell after you attack, and now whatever you cast an instant or sorcery next, you get 3 of them. So I was casting Sanguine Blood, or not Sanguine Blood. The one that deals 2 damage to a creature, and if that creature dies, it deals 3 damage.
Searing Blood.
Searing Blood, thank you. Searing Blood. Lightning Strike. Shock was in there. The 2 damage Scry 2 Magma Spray was in there. So really all it was burn, and that's kind of what I was going for. I also put in with the Fate Reforged, my original plan. I put in the extra turn card with Delve, and I don't have my deck down here with me. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Temporal Trespass, I think is what it's called. So that was something ridiculous. It was like 8 blue, and it had Delve, so you can delve away cards from your graveyard to pay for the 8, but you still ended up paying for the 3, unless of course you exiled it with Narset. Then you could take an extra turn. So that didn't happen very often because I only had 2 copies in there. It really wasn't worth it. I was really trying to burn the person out. That's what I was trying to do. So with this new set that comes out, there's another card that gives you an extra turn called Part the Water Veil. It costs 6, so it's a little bit easier to cast. Blue, 6 colorless. It also has Awaken, so if you pay 2 additional mana, you get some extra. You can turn your land into a creature, although I'm not looking to do that. Let me pull that card up just to make sure I've got that right. Part the Water Veil. There it is. Part the Water Veil. If you pay 6 blue, you get a 6/6 creature with haste. So not too bad. Although I've never done that in any of the playtesting, I've never used that ability. So basically what this deck has turned into is, now that I don't have any of those instants or sorceries that deal damage, I've put in Hordling Outburst, which will give me 3/1/1 goblin tokens. It's a sorcery. And I've got Dragon Fodder, which is a sorcery for 2 red. That gives me 2/1/1 goblin tokens. So the way this works is I got 4 Part the Water Veil, so 4 of those extra turn cards, and 2 of the Delve extra, so 6 total cards that'll give me extra turns. So the way it works is I attack with Narset, flip over top 4 cards, and hopefully, I have either a Howl of the Horde in my hand, or she flips over one, or Part the Water Veil, and I just keep taking turn after turn after turn. The nice thing is these extra turns will stack, so if I do have Howl the Horde, I can play that and then play the Part the Water, and I get 3 additional turns back to back to back, which is super nice. So
You can't win 3 extra turns, there's a problem.
Right. So the one thing that I was running into, and I was using the Hordling Outburst to kind of defend off myself until, I wasn't really using the tokens for anything. Like, I was like, this is a way for me to block people attacking me. Oh, you're attacking me with a 5/5? I'm going to put a 1/1 in front of it. Oh, you're attacking me with a 2/2? I'm going to block you with 2/1 creatures and, trade. They didn't really mean anything to me until I play tested the new legendary goblin, Zeta, and I have fallen in love with this card. It is like every set has that one card, and it's usually a red card or a green card that I get like super excited for. And this is just like it's basically, I got it up on screen right now. It's 1 red, 3 colorless for a 3/3 ally legendary creature, and it says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zeta, copy that spell for each other creature you control that spell can target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So now I can actually use those goblins as a win condition, because I can put her out, and let's say I've got, if I attack with Narset and flip over a Howl of the Horde and a Hordling Outburst, suddenly I've got 9 1/1 goblins, and so I made room in my deck for not Titanic Growth, Titan Strength, the red. Was it a 1-drop?
Pay 1, get 3/0 and haste or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's an instant for 1 red. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn, then you scry 1. So I can target Zeta, and I don't mind if I get this off of Narset or I cast it out of my hand. If I target her, all my goblins now get +3/+1. And so, what I noticed was I'm swinging in with my goblins now. I'm attacking, Narset's attacking, the goblins are coming in too. And since she flips over the cards when she attacks, it's before damage is dealt. So if I flip over Titan Strength, I can target right then and there anything I want. So,
decent.
It is decent. It's a lot of fun. So the deck itself, if I flip over 4, basically if I have all 4 of my Howl of the Hordes like cast after attacks, and then cast the extra spell the extra turn spell, I get 81 turns in a row. 80,
a long game.
81. Back to back
What
to back to
colors
back.
are in that deck?
Huh?
What colors are in all that deck?
Red, white, blue.
Red, white.
Red, white, blue. So the only thing that it struggles with, though, dude, is actually getting to turn 6 to player. And now that I don't have Generator Servant, I can't cast her on turn 5 and give her haste so I can attack immediately. I have to wait to turn 6 to player and then turn 7 attack. So
Generator Servant was such a good card. I am sorry. That was one of my favorite cards of the set.
in M15, it was unsung hero by far. Unsung hero. Red.
Definitely.
Red ramp creature spell. I mean, you had to cast it. You had to use it for creature spells, correct? You couldn't use it for anything else.
Yeah, you had to use it for creature spells.
And it gave him haste. So that it was nice. Like
two separate. You could spend it on 2 different creatures too.
Yeah, that was the best part. That right there. That was the tricky part. If you could split that mana between 2 creatures, that was and give each of them haste. You were in money. That was the money shot right there. So yeah, that's the one thing that this deck struggles with is getting to turn 7. So, but my sideboard, I've got protection spells. I got more destroy target creature with the power 4 or greater. There's an enchantment that I found that's really awesome. I don't have it in front of me. Let's see if I can find it. It's in standard. It's from Zendikar Battle. From Zendikar 4. It's 4 Battle for Zendikar. It's got flash, which is nice. So the reason I like this is enchantment is because it has flash. Enchantment. So you can play it. So I can play it off of Narset, because in the middle of combat you can't normally play enchantments, obviously, because they're not instants. But since it's got flash, you can now cast it. Come on, baby. Search. Nope. Gosh darn it. So let's see here. I believe it's like 3. It's 3 converted mana cost. It's 1 colorless, 2 white. There it is. It's called Stasis Snare. It's got flash. When Stasis Snare enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until Stasis Snare leaves the battlefield. So, since Narset's attacking, this is before blocks, and if she reveals this, I can play it for free, target any creature that I want, and all of a sudden that creature cannot block. It's not on the battlefield anymore. So it's another removal that I enjoy. It's kind of
definitely.
So yeah, so that's a thing. But
that's a thing.
That's a thing. That is a thing. The one thing that I do want to know about this card is how it interacts with processing. So the Eldrazi, that when it enters the battlefield, you can take a card that an opponent controls that's exiled, so whatever Stasis Snare has, and put it into their graveyard. So does that mean when Stasis Snare leaves the battlefield, do they get their card back from the graveyard, or does that break that chain? So I don't know. That's something.
I think it'd go back in their hand.
Well, this says it goes back to play. So like if Stasis Snare exiles the creature, and then you get rid of Stasis Snare, the creature goes back to the battlefield immediately. They don't have to recast it.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you take it out of exile and put it in their graveyard, which that's what the processors do. They take a creature, target card from an opponent's exile zone and put it in their graveyard. Does that break the chain then? I'm not sure. I don't know. So
that'd be a good one for the forums.
Yeah, this is true. So I don't know. We'll see. My guess is it probably goes back to the Battlefield. Would be my guess.
That'd be my guess, yeah.
So, anyway, you got anything else you want to talk about, Pumpkin?
Nah, man, I'm groovy.
Groovy. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have to have you back sometime. Now that we've got the audio set up, before we were having a heck of a time getting Skype to work. So, I apologize if the audio is terrible on the recording, guys. This is the first time we've done this, but yeah, hopefully everybody can hear FaZe.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
We're talking into a blank mic the whole time.
We've only been recording for an hour and a half. You know, it's not like you've been doing anything. Just kidding. All right, guys. Well, that's episode 5. We appreciate you watching. We will be back not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, October 27th. We'll be back at 8 p.m. You can watch us live every other every other Tuesday on twitch.tv/BC podcast. You can also head over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/72DPI online. You can see all of our past episodes. Yeah, we've got Ball and Chain podcast tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about some Destiny and the Taken King. So, yeah. You know what game I want to play? Halo? Yeah, I do want to play Halo.
Can't wait for
I am looking forward to Halo. However, Rock Band 4 just came out. I really want to play some Rock Band 4. All the DLC and everything carries over from Rock Band 3, 2, and 1. So our, extremely horrible addiction to buying DLC for that game continues. Right?
It's not for nothing.
Right. At least I don't have to pay for it again. That would suck.
That'd be a kick in the nads.
All right. So we're going to talk about some video games tomorrow night. So check out the YouTube. Not the YouTube. Well, you can check out the YouTube if you miss it. But at 8 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be recording our 177th episode, I believe. It's way up there. So looking forward to it. What's that?
Decent.
That's
a lot of episodes.
There's a lot of episodes. Took forever to get there, though. But we're there. So, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. Not next week, the week after. Have a great night.